Talk to Jonah.
Jonah
out of Tennessee is asking, is reforming the church toward progressivism an attainable goal? He, him. What do you think? What do you think, Jonah?
What do you think, Jonah?
I mean, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But I have seen some institutions, I guess, where they've made a genuine effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of theists in my time that have. It's like they cannot give up on believing in a God.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that's the case, then it might be a good goal to try to maybe give them an option where it is a more progressive.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. Jonah. I mean, we're talking about over 1 billion people on Earth, way more than that even, that believe this thing, right? We're not going to change everybody's minds tomorrow. It's not going to be the day after that or the day after that. It's going to take generations if our goal is to completely separate ourselves from Christianity. The fact is there's a larger progressive Christian movement that's happening right now that they're getting people through cool podcasts and flashy YouTube videos and all kinds of stuff. And you have to wonder, well, is this a good thing? Because ultimately the foundations of that belief, if we're talking about a historical Jesus that rose from the dead, or a God that interacts with people, or Bible stories that, tell historical events, quote unquote, like those foundations are obviously false. But if they're using that foundations to do good things, is it okay to accept that? I think it's okay to accept that for the following reasons. I think the first thing is we've seen a difference in human rights in the 20th century and beyond that haven't been possible if not for people accepting humanism and accepting like humanist principles within their religious doctrine, right? I mean, it can be done secularly, but the fact is Christians run this country and they always have, and they're going to continue to do it. I'd rather them run it in a milder manner than now if we're going to make any changes. Because, for example, if we're, the legislation that's been written against trans people lately that's been happening, I mean, I'd rather more progressive Christians in government say, hey, this is wrong and I think this is wrong because Jesus said so, than have nothing change at all. Right? I think that's going to be better living conditions for everybody. And the other thing, too, is, like you said, I don't think people are psychologically capable of completely, I'm talking about people as a whole. There's inevitably just going to be some people who are psychologically incapable of changing their beliefs. Or they're going to have weird beliefs, and weird beliefs are just going to keep coming up. I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think that's part of the human condition. So we have to accept the compromises that we can, and in this case being, I'd rather live in a world that's a progressive Christian space than whatever the hell's been going on for the last 2,000 years. I would much rather live in that world. And that doesn't mean accepting falsehoods when they appear. It just means if it's going to be kinder and if it's going to be easier for people to get along in, I think that's what should be done. And there are Christians working in Christian spaces to do that. I say good for them. Obviously, I'm not a Christian, so I don't have that same level of influence in those spaces. So they don't care what we think. If they did, then they wouldn't be in there. But anyway.
Jonah, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that? John, what do you think about that? What Dan said?
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
That if we could somehow magically make all Christians progressive, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
The reason I asked is because I ran across a channel about a month or so ago. Maybe you guys have heard of it. Have you ever heard of Center Place? It's a YouTube channel.
I don't think so.
It is it's a church. The church itself is called Beyond the Walls, and it's all online. And a lot of the times they do a service every Sunday, but other than the services, they also do history lectures.
Yeah.
On just religion in general.
Yeah.
And I found them because I was looking into Gnosticism and stuff. But I don't know. I just found it really fascinating because they don't deny the historicity that we have on religion. They just analyze it.
Oh.
And don't make major claims. And one of the things I saw too was they did a lecture on the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys have ever looked into that, but it's a pretty interesting a piece of the Bible that's not in the Bible.
Yeah, I read it in high school.
And yeah, it almost, you could almost interpret it as like a pro-trans piece of the Bible, and
Sure.
I didn't think that existed.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
look, I mean, obviously, like, if we're talking about LGBT issues in particular, historically, the church hasn't been kind to them. I predict in 50 years, there's going to be church groups that will say, oh, yeah, you know, we were always kind to these people, in the same way that we just got a call earlier saying, oh, yeah, it's Christians are the ones that ended slavery, so we should be thanking them for it. Christians were the ones that established LGBT rights, so we should thank them for it. No, right? That's not how it happened. We're living in this history. We know what's happening. But like, if it's progressive Christians that are going to help make those changes for people and do that, I mean, I'd rather that. I'd rather live in that world.
Yeah.
And luckily, that's not up to me. I don't get to make that decision, but it does reflect how I talk about these issues with people, right? So.
Jonah, I've compared this to malaria-resistant mosquitoes in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get rid of mosquitoes. We're not trying to get rid of theists. But we're trying to, have conversations with them. And if they walk away willingly from fantasies that they may have, well, that's great.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think the organization is called the Atheist Community of Austin, and this is the Atheist Experience. But in large part, it's a humanist activity that we're engaged in.
Yeah.
Reframing life and everything that comes as a part of it in terms of from a human perspective, rather than from some so-called religious God, metaphysical, hocus pocus perspective. And so if tomorrow this is kind of what we were talking about earlier today in a different context, but if 5% of religious people could instantly turn into atheists, or if 70% of all people could become progressive religious people that are humanist first, I'll take the second one any day of the week.
Yeah.
Let them believe in crystals. Let them believe in Ahura Mazda. I don't care. Are they standing up for human rights?
Yeah.
Marginalized groups.
Yeah.
Like the poor, the starving, the injured, the lonely. Like, I don't honestly care all that much. The reason why I care so much about the believing community is, first of all, they control the U.S. government in large part because they're consolidated around certain ideas, and they're really good at organizing. And I think that they are pushing a very nasty, divisive agenda.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. And I was a progressive Christian before I became an atheist. Like, I went from more fundamentalist to less fundamentalist to progressive to atheism. That's a valid path out of the way, because when you engage in the kind of circles, the kind of debate that progressive Christians have, it does become a more analytical understanding of text. It does become a more open understanding of theology. Like there's a lot there that contributes to that critical thinking that I needed to kind of, get myself out of it. And again, I'd rather have those discussions than not, and other people having those discussions.
Yeah. Jonah, we're gonna let you go. To answer your question, I think that it is an attainable goal.
Yeah.
And I think that people are doing it from inside, and I think that activists that are championing causes that are considered within progressivism are also doing it as well, and convincing people from inside that that's a goal. I do appreciate your call. You take care. I hope that you get active some way, if you're not already, in some goal that you find to be worthwhile.